Okay, welcome to another video of physics O levels. Today we are going to do physics O levels paper 12 May June 2024. This is variant 2 5054. So let's start with question number 1. What is a measured using a micrometer? So area is not being measured using a micrometer, current is not, mass is not, so that's the length, because micrometer is the instrument that uses to measure the length. Two people pulls on a rope to move a boat along a canal. The boat moves at a constant velocity. The vector diagram for the tension of the ropes is shown. Since it's a constant velocity, so we need to see that which four vector is a drag acting on the boat. If we find out the resultant force of these two vectors through head to tail rule, I'm going to form another vector here and then another vector here, and resultant will be from like this. And to balance this, there should be opposite force, which should be like this. So it is A, because it says it's a constant velocity, so it means that it is a balanced forces. So there is no resultant force due to these two. They are actually balancing the drag acting on the board. The graph shows how the speed of the car traveling in a straight line changes with the time. Which section shows the largest acceleration? So that's very easy. The gradient of the graph is going to give you the acceleration. This is the greatest of the gradients. Question number 4. A man walks along a path from X to Y. The diagram shows the path from the above. Man measures the distance he walks and the time taken, which quantity can be calculated using the data only. So that's very easy. We have only one quantity which measures the distance and the time. So distance and time is being measured with this. We measure speed in this. So that's an average speed. Which property of an object determines its resistance to change from its state of rest or motion? That's its mass. Mass is because he is talking about inertia. This is the inertia, and mass, inertia depends on the mass. The diagram shows a moon buggy used by astronauts. The mass of moon buggy is 212. Gravitational field strength on the moon is 1/6 of that of Earth. What is the weight of the moon buggy on the moon? So that is equals to W is equal to mg. Two 10 is the mass. On Earth it is like, I'll take 10, although you need to take 9.81, and then since it says 1/6 of that, so we're going to do it this way. So when you're going to solve this, you're going to get 340, because all other numbers are not possible. So you're multiplying with more than one, so it's this number is 1.666, so you'll be getting a greater number. You can do it with your calculator as well. A car travels along a horizontal road. Force on the car due to engine is 800 Newton. The motion of the car depends on the value of the total resistive force, right? Which row shows the motion of the car for the given value of R? If R is 500, then this has to be acceleration. If r is 800, that does not have to be an acceleration, that has to be constant velocity. If it is 900, that has to be deceleration. If it is 1000, that has to be acceleration. That's wrong. So it's C. Four of the gravitational forces that act between the object in the solar system are listed. P, the force on the moon due to the earth, the force on the earth due to the sun, the force on the earth due to the moon, and the force on the moon due to the sun. Which two forces are Newton's third law? That's very easy. It is the force on the moon due to the earth and the force on the earth due to moon. They both are actional and reactional forces. You need to know about Newton's third law. It says for every action there is equal and opposite reaction. A box is moved up a rough slope from x to y. The diagram shows the four forces acting on which force is the force due to friction on the box. Is moved up. If it is moved up, then the friction has to be back, because we are just dragging this. In question number 10, the graph shows how the extension of the four different thread depends on the load attached. Which thread is the most difficult to stretch over the range of the loads shown? So the one is which is going to be you can say in this graph, the one gradient which has a least gradient, that is going to be the difficult to extend, because if it would have been tilted towards extension, that would have been easier to extend. A satellite orbit a planet in a circular path. It has a constant speed. There is a force on the satellite due to the planet. Which direction is the force on the satellite when it is in the position shown? So it is always towards the center of circle. A crane has a this much counterweight position at 2.3 from the tower along this. The center of gravity of the jib is marked. Horizontal distance between 2300 Newton and P, so that there is no moment about P. That's easy. You'll take this as X. So X times 2300 is equals to 2.3 times 5800. So X is equals to 2.3 times 5800 divided by 23. So when you'll solve this, you'll get 5.8. A car of mass 750 kg travels 400 meters at this. It then accelerates to 35 meters per second. Travels further 400 km. What is the change in momentum of the car due to the acceleration? So change in momentum, the momentum is mass into velocity. So mass into final velocity, since it's not changing the direction, so we don't need to put a negative with one of the velocities. And I'm going to solve this. I'm going to get this as an answer. Wall drop from rest to the top of the building. Air resistance is negligible. The velocity of the wall is 40 meters per second when it hits the ground. What is the height of the building? This is potential energy is equals to kinetic energy. So mgh is equals to half mv square. Mm gets cancelled. This is 9.8 times height. We need to find out 1 by 2. V is 14 square. So it is 196 divided by 2. This is 98. So it's 110 meters. Yeah. Which energy source is available constantly over 24 hours period? That's a solar. Oh, sorry. It says energy is available, source available. So available is a natural gas. Like unless it runs out of the source. You know, solar is like when the sun will come out. Tidal is when you'll have this water tides. Wind is when there's a wind blowing. So only natural gas is available 24/7. This power of lamp is turned out for 30 minutes. It wastes this much energy. What is the efficiency? That sees what is the total input energy, that is power times you need to convert it into I need to open the calculator as well. Okay, so this is 15 times 30 times 60. So this is the total input. This much is wasted, so useful is 20,000. 20,000 divided by 27,000 multiply by 100%. So we don't need to like multiply with 100% since it's already giving the answer in simple decimals. So 20,000 divided by 27,000, so 0.74. Which quantity is not measured in joules? Energy is, latent heat is, power not, work is. So C is the right answer. Which description of liquid is correct? Liquid have variable shape but it has fixed volume. A transparent box has a dividing wall in its middle. It contains two different gases, one in each half as shown. The brown gas is colorless. The dividing wall is removed, the box is left for a long time, the gas does not react. What is seen in the box? So you'll be seeing diffusion in this. So you might have studied in chemistry. So it is the gas will be little paler, so pale brown gas throughout. Brown gas on the right and colorless on the gas left. That's wrong because these gases will mix together. Several distinct clouds of the colorless brown gas. No, that's not. They'll be evenly mixed together because they are in random, constant random motion. Colorless gas on the right and the brown. That's again wrong. So the only correct answer is pale brown gas throughout. 20. A bottle containing a cold liquid is placed on a table on a warm day. The drops of water form on the outside of the bottle, which process causes the drops to form? So that is condensation because it the warm vapors from outside air they condenses. What is the specific heat capacity of the liquid? The difference between the boiling temperature and melting, that's wrong. The energy required to change the state of 1 kg of, this is not specific heat capacity, this is latent heat of changing state of 1 kg of liquid, so that's latent heat of vaporization. Energy required to heat 1 kg of liquid through 1 degree Celsius. That is your answer. Let's see why D is wrong. The increase in temperature of the liquid when it is heated, that's again wrong, because specific heat capacity is the energy required to raise the temperature of a substance 1 kg of a substance by 1 degree Celsius. Which statement about infrared is correct? In vacuum, infrared travels at the speed of light. Yes, that is correct, but it's also travels in let's see, infrared is a longitudinal wave, that's wrong. Infrared has a higher frequency than ultraviolet radiation, that's wrong. White surfaces are better emitter, they are poor emitters. So that is the correct answer. The speed of sound in air is 330 meter per second. Which sound is classed as ultrasound? Now the problem is a sound with a wavelength of 250. So let's convert all of them into you can say meters. So this is 2.5 meter, this is 0.25 meter, this is 0.025 meters. Let's divide this and check out the frequencies of these. When we were we're going to divide 2.5, sorry, 330 divided by 2.5, that's 132. This has to be greater than 20,000 hertz, because the frequency has to be greater than 20,000 hertz to be an ultrasound. Ultrasound is always above the human audible range, and you know human audible range is 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz, so it has to be above this. And why I'm doing this, because there is a formula V is equal to F lambda. So if you divide this speed with the wavelength, you're going to get frequency. So I'm dividing this for every number. So it's 330 divided by 2.5, sorry, 0.25. That's not correct as well. So 330 divided by 0.025, sorry, divided by 0.025, that's 13,000. That's still not in the range, so none of the above. Which diagram shows a light from the distant object form an image on a normal eye? So in normal eye, it has to be always converging on a retina. This is not showing any conversion. This is showing a incorrect eye. This guy has a problem, so it has to be rectified. And this also is a problematic eye. One of them is a long-sighted, other one is a short-sighted. The color of the visible light is related to the wavelength of the light. Which list of the colors is in order of increasing wavelength? Red is always the greatest of all. So you know this is the color band. So violet is the least frequent wavelength and red is the greatest wavelength. So this is going to be 25A. Thin converging lens is used as a magnifying glass, which rows give the natural nature of the image produced an expression that is a linear magnification. Magnifying glass is always virtual, and linear magnification is image length over object length. Which application is not used for ultrasound? it does clean jewelry because its particles, they knock off the dirt and the um, uh, rust from it. Scanning and unborn, maybe yes, we use ultrasound for that. For sonar we use it, but not for the sterilization of water. This is UV. So D is the right answer. In 28, this is which equation of potential difference? Which is the correct equation of potential difference? So potential difference is voltage times current. That's wrong, because potential difference is one form of voltage. Potential difference is energy over time. That's wrong. Potential difference work done over charge. Yes. V is equals to W over Q. This is the formula. (29) says the diagram shows 5 electrical circuits. All of the resistors shown are identical. Okay. Which circuits have equal resistances? For equal resistance, these are two in parallel, these are two in parallel, these are two in parallel as well, and these two are in parallel. This is not a parallel, this is series. So it is 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 5. Which electrical appliance uses the heating effect of electricity? So cell phone does not, fan does not, hair dryer does, mover does not. So hair dryer, what does it do? It dries your hair. It blows a hot air out of the dryer and it dries your hair. How many kilowatt hour of energy are used by this connected to this in this? Okay, so we'll use E is equal to VIT, but the problem is this, that in this type of questions you need to use this power as kilowatt. So VI, first of all I'm going to do it, since I have a power 1000, so I'm going to use E is equal to PT rather, because I have a power. So I'm going to use 1000, so 1000 is 1 kilowatt, and you need to be in hour, so it has to be 0.5, and I'm going to multiply this, I'm going to get 0.5 kilowatt hour. Which safety precautions must be taken when wiring an electrical kettle that has a stainless steel outer casing? So it must be earth. Yes, it must be earth because it has a metal casing. I have a fuse in the live wire. That's correct, but let's see why the other one is wrong. It says fuse in the neutral wire. Fuse always has to be in the live wire because it has to disconnect the current before entering into the device if excessive current passes through it. It needs a fuse in the live wire but does not need the earth. That's wrong. It does need a fuse in the wire, but it needs to be earth as well. Here fuse in neutral, it does not need a fuse. So A is the right answer. What is the purpose of the earth wire in the plug connected to the appliance? So to complete the circuit so the appliance works, that's for neutral. To conduct thermal energy so that the appliance does not get, though that's wrong. That is done by the insulation. To prevent the person getting a shock, that's correct answer. To protect the appliance from the current that is too large, that is not wrong, correct, because fuse prevents it. In 34 it says in which direction the force on the wire, so you'll need to use Fleming left hand rule here. You know your index finger needs to be pointing out here, your middle finger needs to be pointing out upward rather, not downward, because current is going upward, so it has to point out this way. And the third thumb, because everything is in perpendicular, so it needs to go down. If you point out your finger, this is index, this is middle, and this is thumb, and they all should be in perpendicular. So if you uh, take current upward, magnetic field to this, your thumb head needs to point out up, not down. So it is going out of the page because it is coming up, so it is out of the page. 35. What is the label Q? That's very easy because they are split ones, so they are split ring commutators. They are not complete slip rings. These are the magnets. This is the coil. So this one is the split ring. There is no slip ring in the DC motor. 36 diagram shows the transformer. Student writes the force statement of the transformer. The alternating voltage across the primary coil induces an unchanging voltage across the secondary coil. That's wrong. That can be changed as well. An alternate voltage across the primary coil produces changing magnetic field in the iron core. Yes, it produces a changing magnetic field in the iron core. Changing magnetic field in the iron core induces an alternating voltage across the secondary coil. Yes, it does. An unchanging voltage across the primary coil produces a changing, and that's wrong. So only 2 and 3 is correct. So that's C. Which particle has the smallest mass? Alpha is helium nucleus. Electron, proton, electron is the smallest of all. This electron is 2000 times smaller than these neutrons and protons. You might have studied in your chemistry. 38. Which two atoms are isotope of the same element? So if you remember the definition of isotope, isotopes are the atoms of the same element with the same number of protons but different number of neutrons. So the protons has to be same, and which happens here. So 2 and 4. Four type of ionization radiation are listed: alpha, beta, X-rays and gamma. Which type of radiation can be emitted from an unstable nuclei of radioactive material? So alpha, beta and gamma. You study that in a radioactivity you always releases these three. X-rays, though you do not study in detail, X-rays always emitted by excitation state. When electron jumps from the lower energy shell to the upper energy shell, it releases X-rays, and that you don't need to study here, you need to study in your A levels. In 40, what is the nuclear reaction that powers the sun? It is always fusion, and fusion of hydrogen into helium. So that's it. Hope you've liked it. Do like, comment and share and subscribe as well. Thank you.